and I am going to take you through a little introductory PowerPoint to psychology. So, to get us started off, can you please have a look at a few facts and fibs on the following slides? I would like you to figure out whether these are in fact facts about psychology or fibs. Here we go. Psychology is the same as psychiatry. This is in fact a fib. Psychiatry is the study and the treatment of mental illnesses, while psychology looks at mental disorders. It's the study of the mind and behavior. So psychiatry fits in within psychology, but it's not one and the same thing. Now we will look at mental illness within the course. Psychology is a science. This is in fact a fact. It is the scientific study of human mind and behavior, although this is questioned by some scientists, and we will look at that in the second year of the course. Psychology links well to sociology. Again, this is correct. Sociology is the study of humans and society, and it requires similar skills in critical thinking and writing. There is also an overlap between the two courses in that we both look at crime, but from different perspectives, and of course the research methods element. There is quite a big overlap, and I always have a few students every year that choose to do both topics. Psychologists can tell you what you're thinking. This is a fib. It's a common misconception, but we can only study observable behaviors, things that we can see. We're not psychic. Sigmund Freud is a famous psychologist. This is correct. We will look at his theories in a little bit more detail later on in the course. A psychologist might be interested in how we can improve our memory. This is a fact. A psychologist might be interested in how we can improve our memory, because that's what psychology is all about. It's about how is it that we can suggest improvements, interventions, strategies in education, in the police force, within families, within prison systems to make improvements. So if we look at a dictionary definition of psychology, I'm sure you've had a look into it yourself. Psychology is the scientific study of mind and behavior, the science of behavior and our experiences and how these shape us. It goes beyond just common sense and personal opinions. It looks for empirical evidence from research studies. So within psychology, we look at a lot of research evidence that supports theories. And then we question and we critique these theories and these studies, because we can never be 100% sure about a certain behavior or action, which is why you constantly need lots of studies to support it. Some feedback then from current psychology students then. I believe on the whole they find it very, very enjoyable. The topics are very engaging. There's a lot of debate that you can do within the topics, and it's stuff that you wouldn't have experienced at GCSE at all, but there is a lot of work that goes into it. They do say that you do need to be very, very organized from the get-go, and you need to not be afraid of hard work, because it is very, very content heavy. But so long as you engage and you do the work and you stay on top of it and you're organized, then you should be fine settling in with the course. In terms of our expectations then at Davenant, here they are. So as you know, you need a 6 in science, any of the sciences, and English language. Preferably a 6 in maths, but that's not compulsory. You must obviously attend all lessons and catch up work. All homework must be completed to a good standard. We will, as it is a big leap between GCSE and A-level, we will be holding regular folder checks where we will ask you to bring in all of your notes so that we can have a look just to support you with your organisation. Topics are sensitive, so we do need to be considerate of others in the classroom and the wider community. We're here to support you in any way that we can. Students have lots of various different struggles and we try and help you as much as possible. You will be successful in psychology so long as you put in the effort and you follow your teacher's advice and guidance. So, a snapshot overview of the course then over the 2 years is split into 4 broad areas. So we have approaches, we have introductory topics, we have the optional topics which you will do in the 2nd year, and research methods as well. So I'm just going to spend some time going through each of these sections just to give you a bit of an idea as to what it is that we do. So approaches. The study of the whole of psychology fits into what we call approaches. But there are overlaps between the approaches, and that's a good thing in terms of discussion. So some of the approaches then that we will look at include the biological approach. So if you're taking a biological perspective, you're looking at the causes of behavior from a biological point of view. So how is it that our brain affects our behavior? How are genes involved in shaping us, how we are, how we grow, how we act. We look at relationships between the brain and different behaviors. So what parts of the brain are linked to speech? What parts of the brain are linked to things like epilepsy? And then we look, of course, down to the biochemical level. We look at the role of neurotransmitters and we look at the structure and the function of neurons. Because, of course, this is very, very important in terms of explaining how we function. Another approach then in psychology is the cognitive approach. So this is trying to create a mental internal map of how we operate. And we apply it to situations such as eyewitness testimony. So why is it that eyewitness testimony is not very, very reliable? And we cannot rely on an eyewitness testimony to put someone away in prison. And we look at how our cognitive psychology, our thinking patterns can be altered depending on the situation we're in and the experiences that we have. Behaviorism then, or the behaviorist approach, is quite the opposite to the biological approach. It suggests that we are born this blank slate or tabula rasa, this idea that we learn all of our behaviors. So as you can see from this image here on the left, this is from a classic study, the Bobo doll study, where a child is attacking or hitting this doll, this Bobo doll, and it's doing it because it saw an adult do the same behavior. So what we're showing is that a child learns aggression. And we look at lots of different types of behaviors, such as, crime, whether mental health disorders can also be learnt behaviors. And we look at those in detail. The psychodynamic approach then is linked to Sigmund Freud, who I mentioned earlier, and we look at this role of the unconscious mind. So this is the part of the mind that we can't actually access, but can influence our behaviors to a massive degree, and especially when we can't explain our actions, it might be something to do with our unconscious mind. And it's through therapy, talking therapy, that we can access some of these thoughts and ideas. Humanistic psychology then is all about free will. So we're not controlled by our biology, we're not controlled by experiences around us, but we have our own choices. We are responsible for our own actions. And so we look at this question as to how much we actually have free will in the choices that we make. To take you through the introductory topics then, we look at topics such as social influence. So why is it that we all conform, or majority of people? And how does social change happen? Okay, so if we look at the moment, a big debate or movement within the world, Black Lives Matter movement, this could lead to massive social change. But how does that process actually happen? And we look at that in a lot more detail. Within memory, we look at how reliable eyewitness testimony is, as I previously mentioned. In attachment, this is one of my favourite topics, is how is it that a baby forms a bond, a special bond between with its caregiver, and why is that so important for later development? In psychopathology, we look at this idea of what is normal. Can you identify what a normally healthy person looks like? And then we're going to look at some mental health disorders. We look at depression, we look at OCD, and we look at schizophrenia, amongst others. The options then in year 13, we will look at gender development. So is there a difference in the thought and behaviour between males and females? Where do these differences come from? Again, do we take the biological perspective, or is there some influence from society and culture? So we look at that and we debate that. So those who don't kind of typically conform to masculine and feminine behaviour and adopt a different gender identity, how do we explain this? In schizophrenia, we look at the causes of schizophrenia, so whether it's some kind of faulty chemical situation in the brain, or whether there's some kind of societal influence. And then we look at how it is that we can treat schizophrenia, and we weigh up the costs and the benefits of those treatments as well. Within forensic psychology then, this is enjoyed by students quite a bit, which is why a lot of our students go into criminal psychology at university. We look at whether there's a violent gene. We look at what causes crime, what causes someone to turn to crime. Again, is it their biology? Is it their upbringing? Is it a mixture of the two? And then we look at this idea of offender profiling, which you may be familiar from in dramas that you watch, about how they identify a criminal based on things that have happened in the crime scene, and we look at whether that is actually a reliable way of catching a criminal. Finally, research methods then. As we know, psychology is scientific, and we use research methods to investigate everything we do. Now, research methods, this topic makes up to 25% of your overall grade. So it features in every single topic that we look at, as well as being a standalone topic itself. It does include maths, so you will have to work out things like the mean, ratio, percentages, things that you would have done at GCSE, but there are also some mathematics elements that are beyond a GCSE level, such as using statistical tests to look at whether or not data sets are significant, and this is why we recommend a grade 6 in maths GCSE or above. Okay, so I would like for you to have a go at a little experiment yourself. It's a little memory experiment, so here we go. You have 20 words to memorize these words. 20 seconds. Okay, can you write down these words, please? You have 45 seconds. How well did you do? Check your answers then and tick them off. Write down how many you got correct. Okay, let's give you another chance. Okay, again, check your answers then. How many did you get correct? Right, I've got a question for you about the task that you just did. Look at your first list. How many of you wrote the word sweet? And look again now at your second list. Did you write down the word angry or anger? If you did write sweet or angry or anger, think about why that might be. It didn't appear in the word list, so why did you write it down? Well, this is something called a false memory. So this is the idea that you can implant false memories in people's minds and think that they saw something or read something or heard something when actually they didn't. And this has actually been very well documented in lots of research, and we will look at this more in research in memory, especially when we look at eyewitness testimony. So when someone has witnessed a crime, how do you know that they haven't just created a false memory based on discussions that they've had with other witnesses, based on what they've read in the newspaper, based on their own stereotypes of what a typical criminal looks like? So this is hopefully a taster of what it is that we look at. And then we look at how it, can be applied in real life. So when you're interviewing someone as a police officer, you need to be careful about the questions that you ask. And then we look at what implications this has in the courtroom. Psychology, of course, can take you to a psychology degree and to other careers. Some of our students have gone on to study psychology, forensic psychology, midwifery, mental health nursing, and teaching. As it's classified as a science subject, the door is quite open for you in terms of where you want to go with this. Finally, it's great that you want to do psychology. There is some summer work for you to complete. Please ensure that you complete this over the summer period, and I will collect that in. It will be marked, and you will also have an assessment in September. So more details to follow in September about this. Thank you very much for listening.